Hello, my name is Latoya Tate, and first off, I'm not real good with videos and all that, so if I kind of stumble or look kind of scared or, just something, it's because I'm not used to this. Not one of those go live people or anything. But again, my name is Latoya Tate, and I want to talk to you about what happened to me when I filed an EEOC complaint against 4 of my co-workers at the Danville, Virginia Home Depot back in May 2014. Like I said, I filed a claim about discrimination at the end of May. And right away, I was telling my co-workers I had done it. I spoke to my supervisor about my EEOC claim and about the racist language that some of my co-workers were saying. So I just want to, I'm going to have to go by this paper because it's kind of a lot and I don't want to skip anything. I don't want to be everywhere. But I filed this complaint against, it was myself, I'm black, of course, but my co-workers, it was 3 white males and half white, half black female, who was my supervisor. I complained about all these people. I'll start with the first white male, who was, at the time, was our store manager. I felt my store manager treated me unfairly by making me clean up hardware. When I worked in kitchen and bath at the time, he would make me clean up people's overheads. And on the days I'm doing this, the people who worked hardware was there, so it was just stuff he would do to spite me. Making me sweep already clean floors, making me put up freight in other people's department. Now, I'm a team player and I didn't mind doing things, but if you see yourself always getting sent to somebody else's department to put up their work, but when you're in your department putting up your work, you're doing it alone. Nobody's ever sent over there to help you. So I had a problem with that too. So he's not even irrelevant. I'm gonna go on to the next thing I complained about was one of my coworkers who used to be my supervisor used the term jungle monkey language in the break room around myself and two black male coworkers. One was a supervisor, one was a countertop associate. This particular day, we're in the break room and everybody's having lunch. It's like I said, it's 4 of us, 2 black males, myself, and the white guy. Nobody's really talking to nobody. People are eating, playing on their phones, whatever. And 2 black guys go to talking, and one of them asks the other one, did he know what Jehovah was? And he said no. So then he asked me, he's like, well, do you know what type of language it is? And the guy says, well, maybe it's Spanish. So then the guy asked him the question, said maybe it's African. And then the white guy joins the conversation and says maybe it's jungle monkey language and starts laughing. I caught him right then and there and I said, did you really just say that? That's culturally insensitive. You shouldn't say it. Well, I reported that to my black assistant store manager. So that was the one thing that he had done. Then we're going to go on to another one, the white male fellow associate I worked with in paint. White customers come in, a family, older guy with his wife, his son, his daughter-in-law, and they come in and they was like, I'm at paint station, and they were like, the man was like, where's that guy that works over here? And I was like, he's not working today. And he goes on and, tells me he's a dick. That's what he calls him. If memory serves me correct, he calls him a dick. I know one time he called him a dick and one time he called him an asshole. So I'm inquisitive. I asked him, what's it about or whatever. So he goes on to tell me one day that him and his family, a prior shopping event, they were there, over there buying stuff. And when him and his family were outside loading up their product, the guy who I worked with in paint asked him outside, did any of the niggas inside help you? So he said, he asked him, what'd you say? And he said it again, did any of the niggas inside help you? By then, he said he walked up on him. And the customer told me that my co-worker also says sexist stuff about the man's wife's breasts. To the best of my knowledge, that customer told me that him and my co-worker got to tussling. My co-worker called the police on him. He said the police got over there just like that. When they asked him if he had touched my co-worker, he said he denied it because he didn't want to go to jail. He lived in Gretna. He wasn't going to go to jail. So that's that. He tells me this, okay? So when he tells me this happened, I asked him, had he spoke to a manager. He said when he tried to go back in the store that night, there was no manager on duty, which is likely because sometimes we wouldn't have managers on duty. So that day I asked him, I said, would you like to speak to one of our managers now? We got some assistant managers. He said, yeah. So at the time I turned him on to speak to a white assistant store manager. And they walked about 7, 8, maybe 10 feet away from my paint station. And me and another co-worker sat there and peeped at them because we were low volume. So this is interesting. We're going to watch what goes on. So we look at them. They talk for like 20 minutes. When the family leaves, the white assistant female store manager, she comes over to me and another co-worker, and she's talking about it. She was like, that's terrible. I'm going to have to report that, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, yeah, it is terrible. So I'm thinking she reported, and I'll say maybe 2 weeks go by, and the gentleman and some of his family come back in. He comes around the corner, I'm working at paint, and he asks me, does that asshole still work here? That's exactly how that one went. Does the asshole still work here? I laughed, and I said, yeah. I said, what happened? Did anyone ever call you? He said, no. I said, would you like to speak to another manager? I turned him on to the black assistant male store manager at the time. So they spoke. After the man goes on, me and this assistant store manager were pretty cool, so I asked him, I was like, so what are you going to do? He said, well, it's not up to me because he spoke to the white female assistant store manager first, so it was up to her. So I'll say about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, some time went by. And I'm sitting here like, this guy I work with, then ask these people outside, and any niggas help him. So I'm like, I can't believe he's still there. Have they talked to this man? So when I asked the white assistant store manager what's going on with the thing, she looked baffled. To this day, you know, you always should trust what you feel. And I felt she was lying to me that day when she said, oh, it's up there. I did a ticket for it. That's up to them. So boom. So not only did this guy ask a customer outside, did any niggas in there help you? One day, me and a white female co-worker that I was sitting talking to at my station, because I couldn't really leave my station without getting in trouble. She and I were sitting there talking, and the fellow associate I worked with in paint, the white male, comes up. He's talking about our Asian bear rep who sells the paint. I'll call him Bentley. Bentley was stocking the bear paint on the shelves, and the guy I worked with in paint, the white male, said that Bentley looked like a boulder fell on his head and his eyes went splat. I told him, ticked me off. I told him right then and there, I was like, right, that's racist. Don't say no shit like that in front of me no more. Don't do that. So he was like, no, I didn't mean it like that or whatever, whatever. So, boom. I go tell, as soon as I see my black assistant store manager, I tell him what happened. And I was like, I want to report it. He told me, you know, if you report that, you're going to come off as the angry black woman. Shouldn't have listened to him. Well, anyhow, I told him to report it anyhow. So that's that. So I also complained about my supervisor. So go on. So I filed a complaint May 2014. Come back in, I'm telling co-workers, telling everybody, some of the people I'm cool with, and I make the mistake of talking to my supervisor, the half black, half white girl. And I'm telling her about the jungle monkey comment. I'm telling her about the guy we work with is outside asking people, did any of the niggas help him in there? And I don't really remember anything she told me that day except for, that's terrible. Nobody should be saying stuff like that. We're all mutts. You know, we shouldn't be that racial tone or whatever, whatever. So, maybe a few days later, I get called to the back. And I'm like, they're asking me, it's the assistant store manager and store manager. The white store manager I complained about. They're asking me, am I going around the store calling the guy racist? And I was like, no, I'm not calling him racist, but I think the language is racist. I said, but as far as the other guy that I work around, asking people outside of any niggas help him, yeah, he's a racist. So, you know, there's no way around that. So they're asking me this, and I know when they call you back they're teething on writing you up. So I was mad because I was like, okay, So you call me back here to ask me, am I calling somebody racist? But when the guy made the jungle monkey comment a month and 2 weeks ago, no one called me back here. No one took a statement. No one apologized. We didn't have any diversity training, nothing. No one talked to me. The guy who said the jungle monkey comment stopped speaking to me, and it was just that. So I just walked around the store in kind of a little bit of turmoil. So they asked me that I say it, and at the time, I know I got this complaint with the this thing going on with the EEOC. I didn't think I was supposed to be talking about it. So I denied calling him a racist. Like I said, I didn't call him a racist. I said the language was racist. I called the guy that worked with me a racist. So, but to make a long story short, I found out that when you file a claim with the EEOC, you have the right to talk about your claim, internally or externally, inside the store, outside the store. And I definitely had a right to speak to my supervisor about it. So my first write-up came because I talked to her about my EEOC claim, and that's in her statement she wrote. She had to Google what the EEOC was to even see what it was. So I caught a write-up June 16th. She said I talked to her on June 10th. On June 10th, she wrote this statement that I talked to her about my EEOC claim and I made her feel uncomfortable, okay? And she wrote this statement June 10th, and she said that the conversation happened Tuesday or Wednesday of the prior week. Tuesday or Wednesday of the prior week made it June 3rd or June 4th. So, okay. So that's when they called me, if memory serves me correct, that's kind of when they called me in the office and went to question me, did I call him a racist? I'm kind of going to confuse you on this. So when I complained about the jungle monkey incident, I complained about that April 17th, 2014. The guy who made that comment, the jungle monkey comment, he didn't get reprimanded or get a coaching to June 5th. But they questioned me about calling him a racist June 3rd or 4th. And when they were talking to me, they had me on phone with the Aware Line people. And I told those people I thought it was mighty hypocritical that no one called and talked to me then when I was bothered with somebody making a comment about jungle monkey language. No one called and talked to me then. No statement or nothing. But the moment I'm reported to have called him a racist, they have me in the office with these people on the Aware Line. So, the hypocrisy. So, I told them I thought it was hypocritical. I couldn't even believe it. They wrote me up for it. And like I said, when I talked to my supervisor about my EEOC complaint, that should have been a protected right under federal law. My second write-up came, the first write-up was June 16th. Then July the 5th, I come into work. Normal protocol, if you hear somebody miss a page, like somebody from garden, we need you to call the paint desk. If you see that garden employee and you know they didn't call, you'll tell them. It's just heads up around the job. So I come in, it wasn't June the 5th, that's just the day the July the 5th, that's just the day they wrote me up. Whatever day it was, and I got that written down somewhere, whatever day it was, I come into work, and it was someone from the pro desk called 127, here one time. When I punch in, I'm hearing it the second time, someone from the pro desk called 127. When I'm walking up past the pro desk, it's the third page for it. I look at the guys. One of them is on the computer. One of them's just standing there. I look at them. I say, hey, did y'all make the call to 127? They was like, no, we didn't hear it. So I was like, well, yeah, they called. They on their third page for y'all. As I'm walking off, it's two white males. One of them is looking at me angrily. I walk off, and I get like 65 to 70 feet away. The guy, at the time, I didn't know it was him. One of them hollered at me, you make the call then, in a nasty tone or whatever. So I turned back around, and I went back, and I was talking to, it was two white males. One of the white males I had worked with for like 2 years. I had a good repertoire with him, sweet guy. So I'm trying to talk to him and tell him, look, hey, buddy, I wasn't trying to be bossy. I was just letting y'all know y'all missed a call. As I'm talking to him, the other guy who hadn't worked there that long, other white male, he just starts hollering at me, you need to get down at the paint station. You ain't going to come down here with this attitude, blase blah. If you're talking about me, look at me. I mean, just really going irate, hollering at me. So I couldn't even understand why he was hollering at me. So I, just looked at him like, look, I'm not talking to you. I went on. I tried to speak to management about it. They never wanted to speak to me. They didn't have time. So for once, I'm like, let me write a statement, which I hated doing, to clear my name. I write the statement. I got 3 copies of the statement. The guy, both white males. The white male that I had worked with, he blatantly states in his thing that Latoya came around and she stated that we missed a page. And then he states in his statement too that Brian, the guy, other white male, he got defensive with me. So, and then in the guy's statement, he talks about getting defensive, telling me to go in there with my attitude, whatever. I never scream, I never holler, anything. I got wrote up for that. That's when I figured, okay, now they're ready to retaliate on me. I'm in trouble. They're playing with my job, whatever. And the white store manager that I complained about, when he wrote me up and asked him, I said, how are you going to write me up for doing my job? He told me I wasn't supposed to go back and ask nobody anything. So that was that. So then we get around to the 3rd write-up. All along I had been telling them, I feel like I'm doing more bays in our department than they doing. And I feel like I keep it cleaner than they do. I'm constantly stocking and cleaning shelves, and they're constantly smoking breaks or building stuff anywhere but at that department. So the crazy thing is, July the 7th, I had tried to talk to my black female assistant store manager and my white store manager about, look, what am I to do when I feel like I'm doing their stuff and it's being pushed off on me and it's just like they're just doing it to me. No one gave me an answer. It was just like, do what your supervisor says or whatever. So fast forward 2 days forward, it's July the 9th. At that time, I have Achilles tendonitis. I didn't know what was wrong with my ankle at the time, but I'm hobbling around the store, so I already got a doctor's appointment for when I get off work that day at probably 3. I think I got off at 2:30. But when I came in that day, I came in, I only worked for like a couple of hours, and I was going to the doctor. But when I came in, our department was a mess, which was nothing new. They had broke down a display. There's trash everywhere, stuff everywhere, so being a team player, I come in and I automatically just start cleaning up the stuff, putting stuff back on the shelves, back in the overheads, taking trash back there. But that day I'm determined I'm not going to clean up all this mess, because when I came in, it was 2 people working in my department who made the mess. And on top of that, I watched my supervisor take like an hour and 20-minute lunch, plus 2 or 3 smoke breaks, just anything to avoid that job sometimes. So, like I said, that day, I just wasn't going to clean up that whole mess by myself. So, at like 2 o'clock, 2:15, when she's ready to leave at 2:30, she comes to me and she was like, I need you to do some shelf maintenance. That was the word she used. And I was like, shelf maintenance means stuff that's already on the shelf. So I'm like, okay, come show me. She goes around to show me some of the stuff that she had left out. And I told her then, I said, I'm tired of this mess. There won't nobody but me and her in this cubicle where we work at. I'm tired of this mess. I still ended up doing it. I told my black female assistant manager that day that, this is what I talk about all the time. I still ended up doing it because what you call it, insubordinate if you don't. But I did it. So, like I said, I leave for work that day. It's July the 9th. I go to my doctor. She was like, only unless you want to just damage your leg forever, don't go back to work. I need to take you out of work for a minute. We got to get something done to that ankle. So I went out of work July the 9th for short-term disability. I didn't ask anybody at Home Depot to let me out of work to deal with anything. I didn't even know that I was teetering on my last write-up. I didn't have any idea that I was getting lied on when I left. I turned my paperwork in for my short-term disability. I think the next day I took the stuff on in or whatever. So, unbeknownst to me, something is brewing up saying that my supervisor has told management that I cursed her, that I told her I'm tired of this shit. So, like I said, I didn't even know this happened. I go out of work July the 9th. I don't go back to work. Let's hold on a second, make sure. I just wanted to make sure it was still recording. I don't go back. I go out of work July the 10th. I don't go back to work till October the 1st. I get back to work October the 1st. I'm still hobbling on. They got me on one of those boots, but my short-term disability ended. I don't have the time, so I got to go back to work. So I go back to work like October something. October the 1st, I think. I'm at work for 2 or 3 days when I'm called to the back again with somebody on the wear line and my black assistant store manager back there. And it's a guy, and he's kind of rough with me. He's asking me, well, did you curse your supervisor on such and such day? And for a second, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of foggy. Like, I don't even remember when I left here. I've been on pain pills for the ankle or whatever, so I was kind of foggy. And then I thought about it. I was like, well, whatever you say, I didn't curse her. And I told him then, I said, I feel like this is retaliation because I filed a claim with the EEOC, and she has been targeting me all along. This ain't right. I didn't curse her. And he told me, well, it doesn't matter what you say because we got a witness statement. And I just knew then, I was like, a witness statement? Unless the trash can or some of that paint spoke, I know very well me and her were in the cube together by ourselves. So, I didn't bother to write a statement about that ending. It's October. So I hobble around for 1 week. So with the second week of October, third week of October over, it's November. I come to work on November the 6th. November the 6th is a important day because I don't think I've even gotten into the gist of. November the 6th was the day I was supposed to have a mediation with Home Depot and the mediator in Richmond. The mediator had sent me something October the 16th or 17th. And she was on it. She was saying, I've set up a mediation for us October the 6th, 2014. Now, you heard me say it was dated October the 16th or 17th. So I'm like, unless she means for me to have a mediation next year, this is off. So as I'm thinking this, she's called me. I don't know if I was at work or whatever. She's left her voicemail. She was like, I gave you the wrong date. I need you to call me so we can talk about it. It's actually November the 6th. So I call her, and she was like, I didn't mean to say October the 6th. I meant to say November the 6th. We had this mediation. And then she goes on and she asks me, she said, well, what happened and what's your problems and what's your gripes? And I tell her pretty much everything I just told you all about the racist language, being targeted unfairly by my store manager and all this and all that. And she told me that she didn't think it was mediatable or it could be solved through mediation. And that she was going to send it to investigation. Well, see, I was dumb, real dumb, and I thought EEOC worked for the people and they would help you solve things, or they could see when someone was blatantly disrespectful. So she canceled the mediation and told me it was going to investigation. So this is like maybe October the 19th, 20th, or whatever. So then comes around November the 6th. November the 6th, I hobble into work, and a good coworker, white female, she meets me at that door that morning. She was like, our old store manager here. Our old store manager had been moved to High Point, North Carolina, and the white female assistant store manager that I turned on to the customer with the nigger complaint from my coworker, that white assistant store manager was now our store manager. But when I get to work that morning, my white female coworker tells me, our old store manager here. I didn't correlate November the 6th with nothing. So I'm hobbling around. I'm not at work for 30 minutes. The new store manager, the white female, she comes and gets me, and she says, that mess has come back. She was like, I was looking for you. I was like, what's up? She said, that mess came back with your supervisor. And I was like, really? I said, am I going to be fired? And she didn't answer me. I said, so they called him, they let him, the guy I complained about in my initial complaint with the EEOC, who no longer worked at the Danville, Virginia Home Depot. He worked at High Point, North Carolina. They allowed this man to come in and sit at my firing. He didn't work there at that store anymore. To me, it was only just putting salt in the wound. Also, when I talked to my EEOC investigator, if that's what they want to call themselves, because the EEOC is a sham, people. When I talked to her and I told her that they let him come in and sit on my firing once he no longer worked at the store, she told me the only way that should have happened was if he was a regional manager. He was not a regional manager. I knew who our regional manager was. I complained to him before. I complained to the human resources lady before. I complained. And maybe that's why I lost my job, for complaining for stuff that I thought was wrong or right, or however. So, in a nutshell, I made a complaint May 2026 EEOC. I started complaining, telling people around the job what I had done. Other black people were waiting for change and waiting for something to be done, because we talked about this. If you're running around the store making racist comments, then yes, I talked to my white friends I had at work, and I talked to my black friends as well. So we were waiting for something to get done, and we never seen any change. So basically, I complained. I submitted a claim in May, and had I not went out for short-term disability, like I said, I went out for short-term disability from July the 10th to October the 1st. Had I not went out for that disability, I would have lost my job a short 10 weeks after I filed my complaint with the EEOC. And prior to that, like I said, I quit these 3 quick write-ups. Prior to that, my only write-up was for absences. I was on the Home Depot volunteer team. I painted at Boys and Girls Clubs. I painted at veterans' houses. I was one of their platinum winners. I had won their watch. I was doing okay. I was doing okay until I had the nerve to complain about racism. And like I said, the trickle off, and the supervisor that I complained about, the half black, half white girl, I had complained about her before, that I thought she was targeting me. It had also been told to me by a supervisor who no longer works there because he was stealing. He sent me a text one morning and was like, your supervisor's trying to get rid of you. She wants me to take you in your department. I had called the Aware line of Human Resources, and I told them, I was worried about that. So it's like I complained about this supervisor, and I was left to stay around her and her nitpick and lie and write me up and have me wrote up on frivolous stuff. Like I said, the first write-up I caught behind her when I talked to her about the EEOC complaint, that should have been a protected right. Right now I'm in federal court and I'm fighting by myself. I've had a lawyer. I've lost a lawyer. I've had people, tell me they believe in my case. I believe in my case. So but right now I'm at the point that I don't believe in justice. We don't see that a whole lot. So therefore, I just wanted to tell what happened to me again when I worked at the Danville, Virginia Home Depot. We had that issue with that Lowe's thing when that lady didn't want black people to come in her house. Well, I believe in people's rights. She had a right to not want no black people in her house. But what Home Depot allowed happen to me was not right, was not legal, and it's not law. And if what they did, it kind of took something from me. I lost the ability to take care of myself for a time, anger, depression, and all that. And this thing has just festered along, and I just needed to release myself, and I swear to God, even just saying it and finishing this video, I feel released. So do me a favor, share it, pass it along. It's racism everywhere. Once again, good old Danville, Virginia, Home Depot, EEOC sucks. People, if you ever have a problem of this magnitude, you got to report it to the EEOC, but don't wait till the last minute and try and find a lawyer like I did. Once again, Home Depot in Danville, Virginia has racism, supports racism. You can only tell me you support it when your assistant managers don't report it up the chain. They don't do what they're supposed to. It wasn't my job for you to speak to that customer who lived in Gretna, and I still have his name and his number, but I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know if he'd be a witness for me or not. But I didn't make it up in my mind. One of my coworkers sat with me, and we stared at our white assistant store manager talk to him, but she never did a ticket for him, regardless of whether she lied and told me she had. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you. Have a good one.